By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what bottleneck is holding you back, and you're going to have clarity on what you need to do in order to fix that bottleneck to actually scale to the point you want to be with your copywriting business. Now, the problem with most copywriters is that they just don't know what they don't know. And so today I'm going to give away the 33 biggest copywriting mistakes that I'm seeing amongst, my students, other people in the industry, my own journey. All of this came from experience. Okay. Now we're going to do 3 mistakes over 11 different sections of a copywriting business, from mindset to copy skills to sales, like closing, setting, to outreach, to retention, to upselling, literally every area that might be holding you back. We're going to cover 3 mistakes from that area and give you clear, actionable steps to fix them. Okay, so let's dive straight into this. I want this to be as value and action packed as possible so that you can use this video to fix your bottlenecks and become a new copywriter by the end of the video. All right, so first of all, the most important stuff that everyone wants to skip is the mindset stuff. Okay, so what I want you to get over is the scarce versus abundant thinking, because this pops up in multiple different ways. Maybe you're too scared to message that prospect because you don't want to burn the lead. There's thousands of prospects, there's millions of prospects. New businesses are being made every day. Like old businesses are coming up with new problems every day. Businesses are getting rid of copywriters and looking for new ones every day. There is an abundance of opportunity around you, and if you can't see that, you need to remind yourself of the abundance in the world. How many leaves are on every tree? How many blades of grass are in every field? How many grains of sand make up a beach? All right, now remember this as well, like God clothes every bird in the air, and God makes sure that every bird eats every single day, yet you're worrying about tomorrow's clothes and tomorrow's food. Okay, the world is abundant. Okay, now whether you want to go down the faith route or not, the world is abundant, and the quicker you realize that, the better. Now, the next thing is people thinking about money over value. Now, prospects can feel that when you just care about the money, you're not there for the right reason. You create this transactional relationship, and it just feels sticky. No one wants to work with someone that's just trying to take. Instead, as a copywriter, especially a copywriter trying to break into this industry, you want to switch that thinking to give. All right. And the last thing here is just having like a low worthiness, not feeling worthy of premium prices, not feeling worthy of delivering good results. Okay. Now, a good exercise here that an old mentor gave me was just, who am I not to be worthy of X? So let's say you don't feel you're worthy of 10K a month. An exercise you can do for this is just sitting down with your subconscious and seducing it with questions by asking, who am I not to be worthy of 10K a month? Now, your subconscious is going to come back and give you a bunch of answers. And I'll give you a hint. None of them are true. And this is the power of the exercise. So we'll run through it right now. Who am I not to be worthy of 10K a month? And it might be like, oh, you're dumb. And it's like, well, I'm not dumb, because there's a lot more people making a lot more money that are a lot less intelligent than me. So it's not because I'm dumb. It's like, oh, okay, right, fine. Oh, because I don't have the right resources. Well, that's not true, because there's copywriters that have never been in a group, a mentorship, this, that, and whatever, and they've made the money I want to make. So you just want to go through all of these answers until your brain has nothing left, because that's when you've crumbled the belief. All right. So these are the three main things in the mindset section that I'm seeing hold, most copywriters back. So let's just solve them today. Now, the next one here is the outreach section. Okay. People are getting stuck on this like quantity versus quality. Now, for me, I would much rather send less outreach, and basically, well, I would much rather send less outreach to land a client, because you're not getting paid for all of that time you're outreaching. So I know there's tools now to automate thousands of emails every single day, but that spray and pray approach is not the way to land clients in 2025. Instead, you want a hyper sniper value packed approach where you're like acting as if you're already a partner with the business and you're helping them from the first experience they have with you. Okay, so quality over quantity all day long. The next is, people just forget about the buy-in window. Now, remember, with your cold outbound, you're reaching out to people that have a bunch of variables that you can't control. Maybe they don't have the right budget right now. Maybe they're not in the place to even move forward with this direction. Maybe they don't even see the value in your work. So that outreaching in that way, where people are not in their buy-in window, your probabilities of landing a client are lower than if you were to just outreach to people that are already telling you that they're looking to hire someone for that position. That's gig applications. That's also just getting in the right groups on Facebook and reaching out to business owners that have spoke about this stuff in the past. Get creative, but find people in the buy-in window. You don't sell shoes to a man with no feet, and you wouldn't sell food to a non-hungry market. So go find your hungry market. Now, the next thing here is like no system for your outreach. You want to know where your calls are being booked from, whether it was a DM, email, this, that, or whatever. So you want a business dashboard. You want to be able to see how many prospects you emailed before you got a response. So you should know your reply rates, like your watch rates if you're sending looms. Like, you just need a system for all of this stuff, so you know how long it takes you to collect how many prospects, how many prospects you need in order to land a call, how many calls you need in order to land a client. Like, if you haven't systemized all this stuff and you're just, like I said, spraying and praying, then no wonder you're not scaling predictably. And that's what we want to do here, is remove all of this like guesswork and scale reliably and predictably in a consistent fashion, so you can actually rely on this income and create a good life for you and the people around you. Now, let's get into the copy skills, because we're going to cover a lot of stuff here and I don't want to get stuck in the first few. Now, copy skills, right? Something that I'm constantly telling my students to get rid of in their copy is fluff. So if you can keep the same message but say it in less words, do it. Because remember, every minute that someone's reading your copy, we are competing with TikTok for their attention. You're competing with OnlyFans for their attention. You're competing with, funny videos on Instagram about cats and dogs and this and whatever. So we've got to cut fluff where we can. Like, more copy is always going to be good. Sure, webinars are converting like crazy when you do them right. All, like, more copy isn't like a bad thing, but fluff within the copy is. So don't get this twisted. Now, the next here is like, I mean, the mistake, it's not a mistake that good ideas write themselves, but the mistake is that people don't spend enough time on the idea. So the thinking that I want you to adopt is that good ideas write themselves, because if you don't basically put the weight on the idea and you're staring at a blank Google Doc and then start flowing, it's going to be clunky, it's going to be disconnect, there's going to probably be multiple ideas in one piece of copy. So spend time on your ideation. Personally, like when I was doing email list management, I would go in and add a week's worth of ideas before I would write the copy for those ideas, so that in my writing deep work session, I could just come in and turn that idea into copy. So focus on good ideas. And this next mistake, it kills me, and it's just people using AI the wrong way around. Like, don't outsource your thinking with AI, use it to basically increase output. So come up with the ideas, come up with good structures, come up with everything that the human brain and creation, like our creativity, needs to come up with, and then let AI clean up the structure or clean up the grammar, or the little things like cutting the fluff. Like, let it be an afterthought. Don't let it be the, like, the thing that's driving ideas, the thing that's basically coming up with the angles. Like, that's where most copywriters are going wrong with it. Now, we're going to get a bit more into sales, okay? Because all of this stuff means nothing if you can't close deals. So the next thing here is just, people have no conviction in their service. All right, they basically think like, that comes back to the worthiness. If you're on a call and you're like, oh, possibly we could get this result, like, no. Like, I help copywriters escape the feast and famine cycle in 90 days or less. How do I know? Because I've done it countless times. You can check the testimonial channel for proof. So I am very clear on my offer, and I have conviction on my offer, and therefore I can say it with confidence, and people believe it when I'm on a call. Those people then get results. You see how it's like a positive flywheel that you need to get on. Whereas if you don't have conviction in your service, how can any of your prospects have conviction in it? So remember, you can't be too salesy if you've got a good service and that service is helping people. In fact, you're doing them a disservice if you don't actually get that solution to them, because remember, it's going to have a positive impact on their life. So you need conviction. Now, the next is commission breath. And this comes back to the transactional thinking of like, people can smell if you're just there for the money. You want to be there to help. You want to be there to find the right solution for this person. If you're just there like, oh my God, this is going to be the win that I can send into my Discord group, like, you're going to lose the sale before you even get into an opportunity to close it. Okay. Now, the last thing in closing that I want to cover here, it's just this fake pressure you put on yourself. You're putting the money and the sale on a pedestal that's then like making it seem a lot harder to acquire. It's not. You're just like, this is the frame you want to think about with sales calls. It's just, you're a cool dude speaking to another cool dude, trying to figure out and filter if you're the right match for each other to work with each other. Okay. There is like, money's everywhere. Money's worthless. They print it out of thin air. So you don't want to put it on a pedestal. You want to be like, it's effortless. It's magnetic. So don't put pressure on things that don't require pressure. Because when you put pressure on a sales call, you freeze up. You no longer can talk. You're not feeling abundant. You're not like tapping into all of your like subconscious creativity that's actually going to allow you to close the sale. So that's about closing. We're going to go a little bit more into retention. So once you've closed a client, we want retention over acquisition, because remember, you're not getting paid to do acquisition. Whereas every month you work with a client, your hourly rate is going to increase, because you're going to have to spend less time to do the same work, and therefore you're getting paid. You're doing less hours by the laptop but getting paid the same, so your hourly rate is increased. So retentions is super, super key. And here are the three main things that I see that mess up retention for most people. Now, no onboarding. You get your invoice paid and then you ghost for 3 weeks. Like, what? what do you think that's like telling to the customer? Their experience of you is not going to be the best one if you're just ghosting. So they get buyer's remorse too, and we want to just combat that straight away. Now, the next one, I sort of just mentioned it, is the acquisition versus retention. Retention beats acquisition every single time. It creates referrals, it creates upsells, it's easier to sell to someone that you've already sold to before. You're getting paid for every hour that you open your laptop for. Whereas with acquisition, you've got a prospect, you've got to research, you've got to do your outreach, you've got to jump on sales calls, you've got to go back and forth, all of which you're not getting paid for. And you may not ever get paid for it. So you want to think retention over acquisition. When you land a new deal, don't worry if you're going to slow down for a month of like acquisition. Don't turn it off completely, but when you land a new deal, focus on locking that deal in, because a retainer isn't a retainer until you felt it for 6 months. Okay, so think yearly salaries over quick retainers and quick new cash. Now, the next again comes down to the transactional versus emotional, because if you're just a copywriter that comes in, does what is required of him, like in terms of like the bare minimum for the brief, you don't speak to people on the team, you don't do this, you don't do whatever, then when money gets tight, when shit hits the fan, when they're reviewing budgets, guess who's first to go? You. All right. But once you've got an emotional connection with people on the team, with the client themselves, and they like you for you, you're actually talking about things in your personal life, then you're going to retain customers for a lot longer. And even when shit hits the fan, you're going to have people defending you, even when you're not there. You're going to have people that actually just want to see you do well and, protect you as well. So build emotional connections. Don't just focus on this transactional hustler G type shit, because I promise you, those dudes, they do not last long. And even when you see them posting wins, you never see them posting month 2 of a retainer. All right. Now, the next is upselling, because we want to be able to turn that hard work of, acquiring a deal into more work so that we're getting paid for that work. Okay. And so that we're making more money with less hours. So, most people, the biggest mistake they make with upselling is, again, they're getting this commission breath. They're like, oh my God, I've closed him, I can make more. Oh, he needs a funnel. Oh, he needs this. Like, no, slow down. Okay. Stop rushing ahead. Smash your job first, because the best way to build that rapport and prove competence is to just do what you've been asked to do. Okay, so show them that you're competent, over deliver, go above and beyond, get them great results, because then it's a different conversation. So next, I want you to find the deeper problem, but only once you've smashed your job first. So let's say you're writing amazing emails and they're getting a great click-through rate, but we're not seeing calls getting booked. So it's like, well, what's going on? Well, it's not the emails, because the emails are taking them from Gmail to, funnel, but something's going on this next page that's like causing a drop off in conversions. So maybe that's the deeper problem. And again, when you present this to a client, like, oh, we've already got results here, here, and here, but I'm seeing like a drop off here, maybe we should have a look at this. It's not like a hard sell. It's just an easy, like, and a natural next step. It's like the obvious solution. And again, this brings me to the next mistake, is like people have the wrong framing with upsells, where they're just there to make money. It's like take, take, take. Whereas if you can identify an actual solvable opportunity, you can identify a bigger bottleneck, and you can present it, excuse me, and you can present it in a risk-free way to the client, then they're going to want to take that every single time. So be careful with how you're framing these upsells. We want it to be, that I care so much about your business that I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you about my findings. And here's the solution that I think we should test over the next week or month, however long, to get this fixed. That's the framing you want to adopt for this. All right. Now, we're going to go into the personal branding stuff, because this is something that every copywriter avoids, even people at the top. And then they're in this weird feast and famine cycle, constantly looking for deals when their clients leave them. All right. Whereas having a good personal brand, it mitigates a lot of that. So let's go straight into the 3 biggest personal branding mistakes. Now, one that I see the most is that people forget about the know, like, and trust factor. People do business with people that they know, like, and trust. Okay, so our emphasis on the people, because you need to be a human here as well. Really, really, like, don't be one of those robotic ChatGPT personal branding dudes, because you're getting roasted inside like groups. I can promise you that. But yeah, like, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So every personal branding post should either be building on that know factor, trying to reach new people, that like factor, making you human, being personable, and that trust factor, proving competence, showcasing skills, like all of these things that are going to make you seem appealing and like an obvious hire to a client. Now, the next is like lecturing versus entertaining. You got to remember what people are on social media for. No one's there to be lectured. No one cares about the 3 ways to increase open rates. They're there to be entertained. So sure, you can tell people what you found out from this recent launch where you did 3 extra open rates, whatever, but do it in an entertaining manner. Okay, now the last one that kills people's personal brand is just inconsistency, because you don't want to be the new kid on the block that shows up and then disappears and shows up and then disappears, because then you get known for that instead. You want to be known for someone that turns up daily, because that is showcasing what it's like to work with you, what traits you have, what mindsets and habits you have. So turn up, even if it's just a small little meme that you got to post for one day to keep consistent. We want consistent action that compounds. All right, so personal branding is super important. Don't sleep on this. Really take this on board, and this can be another part of your outreach and acquisition strategy that pays you for years to come. Remember, if you want to be in this industry for the long term, your personal brand is your digital presence, it's your CV. So you need this. All right, now the next, again, it's going to go into this digital presence a little bit. It's your sales assets, okay? Because you don't want to constantly be doing all of the selling for yourself, because then you're capped to how many calls you can jump on, to how many people you can speak to how many emails you can send. We want a magnetic effect where your sales assets, where your network, where your personal brand, where everything is selling for you, and you can make more money with less hours by the laptop. Okay, so the first one is most people don't even have a copy CV. So when you deal with big companies, they want to see your track record, they want to see references, they want to see people you've worked with. Okay, so if you don't have a copy CV, by the way, you can book in a call down below and we can build this together. There's no issue whatsoever. My copy CV has made me anywhere from 50 to 100K. It's a real asset that you need in this industry. You would have it in every other industry. Copywriting is no different. The next is just having no digital presence. I don't care if you've just got like a few pictures on your Instagram, like a Facebook that says what you do, and maybe a LinkedIn. Like, you need digital presence, because if someone sees your gig application, if someone sees your DM, if someone sees your email and they like what you've got to say, they're going to do due diligence before they start working with you. They're going to do their homework. They'd be an idiot if they didn't. So if they search you and you've got no digital presence, because remember, it's 2025, the way they're going to do their due diligence is by checking social media, it's by checking your name online. If they can't find anything and you're a ghost, then what's that going to do for your know, like, and trust? They can't know you because they can't see you, and they can't like or trust you because they've got nothing to go off of. So you need digital presence, even if it's just the bare basics. The last is just, it goes into your copy CV, but it's just testimonials and your portfolio. If you're saying you're an email copywriter and you're applying to an email gig, but your portfolio is full of ads, like, it doesn't make sense. So make it all congruent and aligned, and make sure that you're collecting testimonials, even if it's just a screenshot where someone was like, nice work, Morgan. Like, we want to frame our every experience we've had with a client as a testimonial that we can leverage into more work. So make sure you're focusing on all this stuff. And again, if you need help pulling all of this together, just give me we can book a call down below and we can talk together about this. Now, the next is setting. These are like how you turn a conversation into a sales call. And the biggest mistake that turns off premium players straight away is overuse of like grammar and like exclamation marks and stuff like this, because it just screams desperation. It screams that you're so excited that because you're never in this position, that essentially you can't be trusted. No one likes to do work with people that come across as desperate. So chill out on the exclamation marks. Act like you've been in this position before. Like, you don't want to basically burn the sale before you even get on a sales call. The next is just people all of a sudden turn into this like stiff sales robot. Like, no, you're a cool dude working with other cool dudes, just trying to see if you're a good fit. There's no pressure. So act human, crack a joke, like, be yourself, be personable, because remember, most hires are a culture fit. And that culture fit, they're just figuring that out from the first message you send to them. You're showcasing what it's going to be like to work with you with every message you send. So make sure it embodies and reflects your service in a good way. The last is just positioning. Are you in the DMs of authority, or are you in the DMs of desperation? Are you there as the go-to guy, or are you just sort of, maybe you could get it done? Your positioning is everything, all right? You need to be positioning yourself as the premium authority that can get the job done for sure. Anything outside of that, well, why would they hire you? And it seems obvious, but most people aren't doing these things. Now, the second to last one is systems. And these are probably some of the most important stuff. And without these, then it's no wonder you're not scaling predictably and reliably, because we don't have visibility on any of the bottlenecks, on any of the data, or on anything that's actually going to give you, that educated guess in how to fix a bottleneck. So the first system, I mentioned it previously in the outreach, is like dashboard. You want to know how many gigs you've applied to, how many prospects you've collected, how many calls you've got on, how many emails you sent, how many DMs you sent, how many follow-ups you sent. You want this all collected in one dashboard so you can take a zoomed out look at it and see where the drop off is. Are you getting a bunch of prospects but then none replying to you? Are you getting a bunch replying to you but then no calls? Because wherever that drop off is, That is your main bottleneck that you need to fix. Let me just simplify this business model for you. Really, like, I'm going to simplify it as much as possible. Your only goal right now as a copywriter is to book calls. Okay. If you're not booking calls and closing calls, then you've got no business. Your good copy skills don't matter. So take a look at your call booking rate. How many calls do you book in a month? Because if it's not a lot, then we need to up those numbers. Now, the next thing is no scalable fulfillment process. For example, for my social media management offer, I have a Notion board that I just duplicate every time I take on a new client. That Notion board has an exact process that guarantees results, and I can take on 10 clients in a day if I wanted to and still ensure that I'm going to be moving the needle with each client. So I have a scalable fulfillment process that allows me to actually take on more clients, allows me to get more money with less work. And like I said, it's reliable because I'm going to ensure results every single time because it's a proven process. So if you don't have that, and you're just throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks, then it's like, well, what do you expect? It's going to be different for every client. Therefore, not predictable, not consistent, and not reliable. Okay. So simple scales, but let's get a simple, scalable fulfillment process. Now, the next is like your books and your accounts. Every time you get a payment, you need to be putting money aside for tax. Every time you get a payment, you need to know where that money's come from, where you got paid. Was it Stripe? Was it your bank? Was it Revolut? Like, all of this stuff is super important. And just because, you see these hustler bros online and you think that it's just like make money online and disappear and don't pay tax, like, no, you'll end yourself like HMRC will be hunting you down, bro. So get set up even before you think you don't need it. Get systems in place for tracking your income, for tracking your expenses, because all of that is tax deductible. So you want to be clear on where you're spending your money. If it's a taxable, like if it's, you can deduct it as a taxable expense, but we want systems for this so it doesn't become a huge headache or an admin task. Now the last area, and something that I think holds most copywriters back, is time management. Because think about it this way: if you can land one 2,500 a month project, then you can make 10K a month. You just need the time management practices in place to be able to handle 4 of those clients. And that's the problem. Most people just like shit the bed on their second client, like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, no, you just need time management practices in place. So the 3 biggest mistakes is people have random hourly rates. You don't know how many hours it takes you to create the outcome for a client. One week you're working 40 hours, the next week you're working 10 hours. Therefore, your hourly rate is spiking up and down, and it's just inconsistent and it's hard to track. The next is random fulfillment. Again, like, you should have a set process of how you deliver your results so that you can track the time and you can see where the bottlenecks are. So, as I mentioned for the fulfillment process for my social media offer before, like, it's the same steps for every client. Whereas other people, maybe they're just waking up like, oh, we need a post today. Oh, we need a reel today. Oh, we need this today. Inconsistent, unreliable, and it's not going to scale. The last thing is just random communications. Like, what's your reply window? When are you talking to clients? Is it on WhatsApp all day? Because that's going to ruin your hourly rate. Or is it just in the windows where you say you're going to be online in Slack? So get clear on all of these things. This was a very, very big video. And if you made it to the end, you are serious about fixing these bottlenecks in your business. And I absolutely respect it, because most copywriters can't go through this. They don't have the attention span or the focus to watch a video this action packed and value packed. So pat yourself on the back. This was a lot of information. Make sure to go back and watch it as many times as you need. And if you want to talk about how we can scale your copywriting business together, how to get results like these people you're seeing on screen now, then just check out the description. Let's book a call in together, a quick 15-minute chat, no pressure either way, just to see if we're a good fit, to see if you would benefit from my coaching, and to actually identify the bottleneck that you need to work on today to scale to where you want to get to. And other than that, other than the shameless plug, I will catch you in the next one, and make sure you take care.